In 3, 2, 1.
John, are we live?
We are live.
What's going on, buddy? It's been a while.
It has been. How are you, sir?
I'm good. I'm excited. This is a new one for us today. We have 2 people on FaceTime with us from different parts of the world and 2 people in studio. So I think it's a record for the number of guests we've had and then the different locations we've had. So I'm pretty excited.
I am too, my man. This is cool.
You've been busting your butt back there trying to make this all work.
Yeah, but it's worth it.
I've been sitting here doing nothing and just waiting for the show to start. So I feel guilty.
It's all right. It's all right.
So how was Christmas and New Year's? I'll be quick because I want to jump into this and we can come back at the end and chat.
Christmas was great. Christmas was great. New Year's was great. A lot of family, a lot of friends. Santa was very generous. And, just the norm. But the weather was beautiful, so we were outside quite a bit. And, that's about it, man. How about you?
About exactly the same.
Yeah.
Loved the weather, hung out with family and friends, and that was about it for me, too.
Awesome. Very
Nursing
good.
the shoulder. It's a little bit better than last time we were on the show. I can move my arms around, which you hate.
More energy.
I block cameras and stuff when I move my arms around.
Yeah, well, we'll talk about that towards the end of the show.
Yep.
All right.
Cool.
So,
should we jump in?
Yeah, why don't we just jump in because we got some people all over the country we are very excited to talk to, plus 2 people right here we want to talk to. So,
cool.
How are you, sir?
Yeah, so for those of you watching or if you're listening to this after the show airs, we have 2 guests that are coming to us with the magic of FaceTime. Keri Mandell and Brian Cronin. They are running the World Marathon Challenge, which is 7 marathons in 7 days on 7 continents, which is insane. So literally, they're going to run a marathon on a continent, jump on a plane, go to another continent, run another marathon, jump on a plane, and do that 7 times over, which is insane because running a marathon in and of itself is a crazy athletic feat. They are doing it 7 times with all that travel and lack of rest built in. And then in studio, we're going to also have 2 guests. We have a return guest, Christopher Bowles, who is with the American Cancer Society, was on, I think, a month and a half or 2 months ago. Mm-hmm. He's a rock star. And we have Kyra. I'm not going to butcher your last name. Racelis
Yep.
In studio with us as well. And we're going to chat with them a little bit after we're going to do FaceTime first and then chat in studio.
Yep.
Awesome. So I'm going to jump in with Keri and Brian. I'm going to toss out tons of questions to you guys. You can both answer them one at a time, however you guys want to take it, because I'm curious to get both of your takes on so many of these topics. Thank you for joining us, by the way. So I'll just start with what got you guys into running, and then what took you guys from running a marathon to wanting to do this incredible athletic feat that's almost impossible to imagine for me.
Keri, why don't you go first?
Okay.
Go first.
So, I guess I started my running career about 8 years ago, and started my first marathon in 2014. And if you would have asked me about 10 years ago, I never thought that I would ever run. I didn't think I had a runner's body. It wasn't something that I was capable of. And, one day I just, was trying to change my life, lose a little bit of weight. And I went outside and I ran a block. And the next day I ran a little bit further. When my husband and I moved from Boston to New Jersey is kind of when I joined a running group around Princeton. And I was, running with these people and trying to run at the time. And they were training for so many different events and races and things. I said, well, if I'm here and doing it, I might as well kind of join them. So that's kind of how it kind of started. And once I started being able to run, I just kind of fell in love with it. And, signing up for 3 races, a 10-miler. From there, it was a half marathon. And then ultimately, jumping into a full marathon, which was Philly in 2014. And once I did that, I felt like invincible, like anything was possible. So just kind of discovered the joy of running. And my favorite quote is, life begins at the end of your comfort zone. So I'm always looking for ways to challenge myself and to step outside my comfort zone. And with marathon training, that was something that certainly was uncomfortable. From there, I finished up the next couple of years running. I completed all 6 of the world major marathons. After that, I kind of checked off the Ironman off my bucket list, and then I was like, what am I going to do from here? A friend of mine told me about this crazy challenge, and I was like, that is right up my alley. So it's kind of how it all kind of started.
I want to be curious at the end of this. I'm gonna save this question for the end, or I'll ask it now and I'll come back to it. I wonder what you're gonna do from here. It's a question I wanted to ask you guys. What's gonna be the next thing that excites you guys? Because there's only 7 continents, unless you guys are planning on running it on 7 different planets. You guys, I think, have kind of hit the pinnacle of running, but I'll ask you guys later. Brian, love to hear your background and how you got into this running adventure as well.
So for me, growing up, I was not an athlete, so to speak. I mean, I like to play baseball and soccer and stuff, but I was never really on any teams in high school, college, anything like that. And working in restaurants for so long and stuff, I actually was a 20-year smoker almost. So that's the opposite of running 7 marathons in 7 days, kind of. But so when I quit smoking, it would be almost 9 years ago, and I started running a little bit before I would go work with a trainer, just making myself healthy and stuff. And some people at work were like, "You're running a bunch now." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm starting to really enjoy it." But at that point, I'd run up to maybe 3 miles, 5 miles. But it was nice. I lived in San Francisco at the time, so it was also gorgeous just running along the water. And so it was a great mental, like, meditation and getting myself healthy. So I enjoyed that part of it. Some friends at work were like, "You know what, we should sign up for the Chicago Marathon," because at that time there was no lottery. You could actually just sign up for it for the 2012 still. It was like you just had to get on there and sign up as quickly as you could. I'm like, okay, that's cool. Then I thought, 26 miles, that's a long way. I don't even drive that far to go to work. It's closer to get to Napa Valley at the beginning of it than it is to run a marathon. But I nonetheless said, sure, I'll do it. Then is when things, life completely changed. At the end of 2011, my mom was diagnosed with ovarian cancer, and about 6 weeks later, she passed away.
Sorry to hear that.
And I totally forgot to register for the race, of course, because life was just a little bit nuts. A few months later, it kind of popped into my head again. And of course, I went to the website for Chicago Marathon, and it was completely sold out. And I think serendipity, kismet, whatever you want to call it, kicked in. And it said, you could sign up with a charity. And the first charity that was listed, I think, was ACS. But I'm like, oh, this is beyond perfect. So I made a phone call, and then they were like, yeah, we have some spots open. And I remembered my family utilizing ACS. I had totally forgotten about cancer in my family for a long time, or it was just out of mind, so to speak. I didn't forget. But they actually helped with my grandmother a lot. She passed away from cancer, and this was in the early 80s. And I was talking to my dad about it, and he was like, yeah, they helped bring, at the time, a nurse to her house for her last week of life and things. I'm like, this would actually be awesome. So then I registered with them, and I ran my first marathon in 2012. And since then, I've run 19 of them. Like Keri, I did a couple half Ironmans, and I did all 6 of the World Marathon Majors in 2016 because I wanted to do something big. And at that time, I had heard about the World Marathon Challenge. And I think maybe 7 months later, I sent a message to both Chris and Kyra, and I was like, could we do something like this? And lo and behold, a year and a half later or so, it was like, yeah, we can. Oh. So that means I have to do this now. Oh my God.
Got to get to training now.
I have to run again. Keri, she said she's like a diesel, and she keeps going and going and going. It's not about speed. I'm more like the Fiat from the 80s, where when I'm working, it's really amazing, or I'm broken down. So but I love it. And running, I don't know what I'd do next to answer your question, so we can get back to that later. But
yeah,
it's really become a major part of my life, and then we'll talk about ACS a lot more. But it's grouping a lot of things together.
Well, you're both incredible. Congratulations. It's crazy to me that you're not lifelong runners. When I imagined somebody and I was looking up the World Marathon Challenge, when I imagined somebody who would run it, I would have thought of somebody who's been running their whole life, and they've been running for 30 years, and this is just kind of the pinnacle of marathon running. The two of you, basically in less than a decade, have gone from non-runners to signing up to now becoming probably the elite of the elite runners. And there's a very motivational backstory to that of you can basically do anything you want to do so long as you put your mind to it. Brian, in your case, being a smoker, I know tons of smokers. Tim in my office, who I know is watching, because I can see who's watching from time to time, he just gave up smoking maybe a year ago because he just had his first baby. And I couldn't imagine, no offense to you, Tim, I couldn't imagine him running, 7 marathons in 7 days on 7 continents in, less than 10 years. So unbelievable work from both of you. Tell me, I'll ask you kind of a fun question. What's your favorite or your most excited for location coming up soon?
Sorry, which continent?
Yeah,
I'm
which
really
continent?
excited for Antarctica. I cannot wait. I love snow, and I'm just really excited to be out there. And that's what I'm looking forward to most.
Yeah, I'm in the same Antarctica. I'm most excited about. It's not the first place where I would think about, gee, I want to go to Antarctica. I mean, cool, seeing penguins, things like that, but I don't think I'll ever step foot on Antarctica again. I'll never say never, but I don't have a reason or a need to let's go back so we can go check out this site, which is just snow. But to just be on Antarctica and have one side be mountains and the other side be white for as long as the eye can see, and knowing I'm at the bottom of the earth is just
kind of crazy.
Yeah, it's kind of I know it's going to be very surreal there. When you have the out-of-body experience when something's going on. I don't want to think about what I'm going to feel, but I have a feeling that it'll be something like that.
And I had no idea what the weather patterns in Antarctica were until 2 hours before the show when I checked the weather out. It's still very, very cold, but it's considered their summer month. So it's the tourism month if they have a ton of tourists ever wanting to go visit down there. How are you guys going to be planning for the weather down there? Because it's going to be colder than, I presume, any marathon you guys have ran in the past.
Actually, so if you look on weather.com or anything like that, I think right now it says Antarctica is -2.
Okay.
But there's a major, and I knew absolutely nothing about Antarctica besides it was a continent and there's emperor penguins there until we were doing this. And so I started doing some research, and there's a major scientific base below every continent, and then a bunch of small ones. The one that we're going to be at is called Novolazarovskaya, and it's closer to the coast, directly below South Africa. And right now, the temperature is probably no different than it is in either Chicago or New York. The high is 37, with a real feel of about 28 degrees, and the low is about 21 at Novolazarovskaya. So,
okay,
really, it's kind of like my run in Sunday in Manhattan, and it was 38 degrees with the wind that made it feel like 22. So I might actually be colder on Sunday than I will be in Antarctica. Who knows?
Good to know.
I think when you're planning to run in the cold, though, I think layering is really important. Just having the option to take off layers and the gloves are going to be important, obviously. One of the biggest things that differs, temperature-wise, yes, it's going to be similar to what it is now, but we have to think about the sun and the reflection on the snow. So just making sure that you're prepared with proper, items. I have to buy special sunglasses that are going to help with that. And they even say wear lots of sunscreen, even on your face, if anything that's going to be exposed, because you can have a really bad sunburn being out there. So there's certain things that you kind of prepare for those types of conditions that you don't necessarily need to worry about here.
Keri, I'll ask you this question. Leading up to this, I'll say a bundle or 7 marathons, has your training regimen changed dramatically from running one marathon, or is it more you're just resting more, recovering more? Is it, if you're running a marathon, you can run that distance and now you're comfortable and you just have to figure out how to recover between the marathons, or has the whole road work mileage changed completely?
It's changed. It hasn't been too dramatic or too drastic. I think the biggest change is, when you're running a marathon, sometimes people are going for a specific time or target, or you're trying to qualify, let's say for Boston marathoners. Where if we're running for something like this is an endurance event. I'm not looking at the races as 7 individual marathons. I'm looking at them as one large race of 183 miles. So I'm treating it like a really big ultra marathon. So I'm not, even in my training, I'm not doing a lot of speed work. I mean, I had some tempo running kind of in the beginning, but for me, I kind of want to be like a metrodome. Like, I want to just kind of go, keep it consistent, keep the heart rate low. I don't want to blow myself up at any of the races because I want to be able to recover faster. So one of the biggest things is I've been trying to run at different times a day in order to repair myself for the time changes and having many more back-to-back long runs. So, Brian, if you is running at 20 on Saturday and 20 on Sunday, things similar to that to kind of help prepare you. So while, you don't have a lot of time to recover, there's that quick turnaround time. How's your body going to respond? I did an overnight ultra race to kind of prepare myself. So things like that. The training itself has been a little bit longer than your typical marathon training. I think a lot of marathon training plans are about 16 weeks, up to 16 depending on the athlete, but this has been a little bit longer than that.
Well, Chris said, because I'm going to give him credit for it, he goes, it's a marathon, not a sprint, but it's 7 marathons in a row. So you guys are pacing yourselves like a marathon within a marathon instead of it being just one, which is interesting. Once Chris said that, I start to think about that. You guys need to finish 7, not necessarily set your best times at every single 7 races.
Right.
Brian, I'll ask you this. Any challenges that you're really either concerned about or trying to over-prepare for when it comes to how you're going to recover between the races themselves? Because you're not just running 7 marathons in one location and going to sleep. Flying is going to stiffen your legs. It's going to make food and diet much more difficult. And Keri, I'd like to hear your take on it too after Brian. What are you planning for when it comes to actually having to get from location to location? And of course, jet lag as well.
So to answer the jet lag portion of it, and I will by no means say I have that down, knock on wood, but on a typical year, I'll fly about 110,000 miles.
Wow.
And about a month ago, I had to be in Italy for 4 days for work. I slept about 2.5 hours on the plane, and that was just one flight because I'll typically do that flying to Europe. But I landed, still had a training run to get in, so I ran 14 miles with 2 hours of sleep, and then I went home, back to the hotel, and took a nap. And I felt great. So that part, hopefully that can help me a lot in recovery. But knowing that we're also going to be on the plane so much, I think I'll get used to sleeping. If not, I've had the doctor give me something just in case. But when it comes to that, the biggest thing I think I'm worried about is getting calories back in, because it comes a point where you're just going to be fueling off of yourself because your muscles aren't going to be able to take in the energy. So even during the races, I'm going to be ingesting things like gels and booze, not to help me through that race, but to keep glycogen and carbs going into my muscles for the next day, and then in taking in as many calories, and then the hydration factor. I mean, you can only have so much water before it starts becoming bad, but we're also going to be on a plane where humidity is typically 50% less than your ambient humidity. So it's going to be playing with things like that. And then Keri and I both, and we're sitting next to each other on the plane, we each have rapid recovery boots, which we'll be bringing with us because each seat has an outlet. So those are big, compression cuffs for your entire legs. They work like a champ. I'm bringing the Theragun with me. Which,
by the way, you should be a Theragun spokesmodel, because I see them all over social media now, and nobody doing it looks like they've ran 7 marathons in 7 days on 7 continents.
That's funny. I should, because, a week after I bought this one, they came out with the new Quiet model, and I'm like, of course I bought this full price, and they came out. But
You'll keep the whole plane awake while using it.
It does look like a power drill.
It sounds like a power drill.
It sounds like a power drill. I'll probably use it on my head after a couple of days to just take away the conscious level and just run or something. Who knows? But I think that's the biggest challenge is caloric intake and hydration, because if I can get energy going on, that makes you less cranky. It keeps you mentally better, because this is going to be physical, but once we start feeling sore and tired and hungry, this is everything about our brain and what we can do to continue on and put one foot in front of the other without freaking out or getting depressed, getting sad, getting all those things you go through in a marathon anyway. This is just going to be exponentially interesting.
Can't even imagine. Keri, how about you? Anything that, in addition to what Brian just said, that is concerning you about all the travel and then the recovery?
No, I think my biggest concern is the food and the intake. Making sure that I have enough calories and that I'm feeling properly. I'm worried about what we're eating. We had a sample menu sent to us for what they ate last year on the plane. I mean, it seemed delicious. Some of the food it's not food I would typically eat before a race per se, but it's still airplane food at the end of the day. So I think my plan is to kind of, you have 8 hours to finish each race. So my target is about 5 hours for each race. It gives me about 3 hours to shower, change, get something to eat, and get back on the plane. So I'm hoping to find food because we only can bring so much. And while I need to bring booze and bars and blocks, we kind of have to figure something else out while we're away. So there's only limited stuff that we can bring. So I think figuring that out makes me a little concerned. But Brian was cute the other day. He sent pictures. He's like, "We're going to be on the plane for like 70 hours or whatever." He's like, "We'll play these board games." And I'm like, "I hope this. I don't know about board games."
It's so you guys are, I'm guessing, chartering. It's a plane being chartered, right? You're not jumping on United Airlines flight, whatever, and then going to another place.
No.
So you have to pack relatively light because I'm guessing it's not a full size jet, or is it?
It is. It's an executive class laid out 757 that has not lay flat seats, but really nice leather cushy chairs and things like that. And it holds a lot of people. So it's a full size 757. So but there's certain luggage limits like to Antarctica. But then besides that, we're going to start getting information as far as how much we can pack. But I also don't want to lug things around.
Most of the items, too, you want to put overhead, so you want it easily accessible.
Yeah.
Right.
You have to think about, that's still your typical size for an airplane. So, my routers will fit up there comfortably, but then my goal is to have everything packed in a duffel bag, which is very challenging for me, because if you ask my husband, when we go on vacation, it's like, if we go anywhere where we can drive, the whole car's packed. I have, multiple bags. My whole, closet with me. So this is going to be challenging, kind of figuring out, putting everything into one duffel.
Well, it's like a science project, both diet-based and then what you guys are going to be bringing. John was asking me, because he can't really ask on these FaceTimes. You guys, either one of you want to take a shot at the list of locations in the order in which you're going? I'm sure one of you may have memorized it.
I think we both probably have.
Brian, you can share. Go ahead.
So we start off, we all meet in Cape Town. I'll be there for a few days. We have a meeting beforehand. And then I think sometime, we don't have the official schedule yet, but sometime around midnight, like at the end of the 5th or technically the 6th, we fly to Antarctica, and we land in Antarctica, get off the plane, and run the marathon there. Shower, get back on the plane, fly back to Cape Town where we run marathon number 2. Grab our luggage from our hotels, run our race, get on the plane. Then we have the longest flight of the trip, which is to Perth, Australia. And we have 2 stopovers. One is in Jakarta, one is in Mauritius. And I think that's just because they don't have, a traditional long-haul flight has a large handful of pilots that are on, or just a handful of pilots, whereas this, I don't think they have as many. So there's a couple stopovers that we need to do. By law. So, but that's still, with the 2 stopovers, that's 17 and a half hours. So it's 15-hour flight direct to Perth. From Perth, we get back on the plane and we fly to Dubai. That's the second longest flight. And then we run the marathon there. That is the only place where we'll actually have a night to spend in a hotel. So we'll run the race. And the recommendation was, if you could be a little bit quicker at this one, it'll give you more time to spend on a real bed, which will be very exciting at that point in time, I would imagine. And then the next morning, we fly to Madrid. And this is when we start flying back negative time. So we get to Madrid, I think sometime in the afternoon. And then we take a bus out to Jarama, which is the old Formula One Grand Prix racetrack.
I'm a race car driver, so I saw that. Excited for you guys for that one.
Yeah. And this was a hilly one, surprisingly.
Yeah, it's a hilly track.
It does have some hill, but one thing I will say, which I am very happy about, I ran a half marathon in Madrid in May because I was helping somebody run a full marathon, and that thing was uphill both ways in the city center. So I'm more than happy to be on a slightly hilly Formula One track going in circles because Madrid is uphill both ways. That's it. And then from Madrid, we fly to Fortaleza, Brazil. It originally was in Santiago, but because of some of the political unrest that was going over there, they had the IAAF people lay out a course for us in Fortaleza. So we're going to be in Fortaleza, Brazil, and then from there we go to Miami. So and that's the last race running along the path in South Beach. And it sounds a lot really like, oh, that's really quick. We're just going here, and here, but that's in 163 hours.
Well, it's a crazy route you guys are taking, and you're going in all different directions. But obviously, the race coordinators have done a nice job of making sure that the time zones start to make sense with the flight pattern, so that you can maximize the 7 days utilizing smart gains and losses of time. Correct? That's the idea behind that.
Mm-hmm.
And Keri, I'll ask you, and we spoke off air about this, but I'm sure some people watching, and I'm sure your family and friends are wondering, there's 2 places on that list for me that when I saw them, I said, well, there's a lot going on right now in the world. Obviously, there's fires in Australia, and then given everything that's going on the political front in Dubai, any concerns or any issues from the race coordination standpoint going to Australia and then potentially to Dubai as well?
As of right now, I think that they're keeping an eye on things and making sure that we're safe, and we'll have to make adaptations if needed, appropriately. I mean, for me personally, Brian was worried about flying over Iran and Dubai airspace. My immediate thought was to Australia and the fires. I have asthma, breathing. Are we going to be close to things? How are they going to impact us? But I think we'll be far enough away that it won't really impact us. And I think that as far as flying over into some scary airspaces, I think we'll have to, negotiate or travel around that. So I'm not too worried. I think that they have our safety and best interest, top priority.
I'm glad to hear that, and it's good. I'm glad to hear you guys are chartering a plane so that you have the ability to kind of ebb and flow as, obviously weather and politics ends up trying to have an effect on your race. We have some people who've been commenting for a little while. You have Kelsey who said these 2 gems are champs. Yes, team determination. That's Kelsey Christopherson. Yeah. We got Nikki Yarnell who says I would want to go to the Antarctica Marathon, basically the only one I would want to do. And then Kelsey talked about bringing your own fuel to races. The food and recovery is on the charter plane with all the runners. And then she also said that medical reps will be there as well. The courses are mapped out as loops, not a typical marathon course with stations. There are laps. Any additional needs will be purchased on touchdown. So do you guys have a big crew going on that 757 with you? That's a support crew, both medical and maybe, first thing that popped into mind, some massage therapists would be nice all over the plane, or is that not his Theragun? So do you guys have a medical staff that follows and a support staff?
Yeah, there will be a doctor on board at all times. I don't know that there's an entire staff, but I do know that there will be a doctor on board at all times. And I've spoken with some people that have done the race previously, and the biggest thing that people utilized the doctor for was after a few days, more and more people were using using saline bags in IVs, just to make sure that they stayed hydrated, and that was the biggest thing. And some people were utilizing them for like stomach issues and things, which is another common thing that a lot of endurance athletes go through anyway, whether you're a cyclist or you're a runner, ultra runner, is because we're ingesting so much straight sucrose and glucose and not real food when you're doing races. So a lot of people so they've been utilizing them for that. So there's that, and then there's the rest of the support crew that put together the race at each location and stuff. So I think it's about 10 people, if I remember correctly.
Okay. And how many runners?
Well, there'll be about 40 of us this year.
40 of you guys. And have you Keri, have you guys gotten close with the other runners? I know obviously the two of you live relatively close, probably know each other well now. Are you in communication with any of the other runners?
I actually am not familiar with anybody else who is running. It's just Brian and I together. So I'm excited to see some people. I know people are going to be coming from all over the world. So I know that we do have some other friends from the United States going to be there. So it'll be interesting to kind of see who's there. They're supposed to have a list of all the athletes on the website soon with our picture and bios. So I'm looking forward to kind of seeing that, who's going to be there.
That'll be awesome. John wanted me to ask, do you guys have a Pledge It link for the donations? Yes. And where would someone go for that?
Okay. The American Cancer Society did do the Pledge It link. I'm going to pull it up so I can say it correctly. It just went live yesterday, which was really exciting. There were a couple people signed up for that. So
if you guys after this can put it in the comments section of the video, that would be awesome. John's pointing at me that I believe he did or he will. We will share it as much as we can. We'll give you guys obviously a donation from WheelHouse. It's you guys are not only doing something pretty incredible, you're doing it for an incredible cause. And I want to just touch on that. Brian, I got kind of your involvement with the American Cancer Society. Keri, when did you get involved with the American Cancer Society?
I got involved about a year ago. When I had originally thought about doing this race, I didn't want to just do it for myself. I wanted to do it for something bigger and greater than myself. And having lost my dad and my stepmom and a close friend of mine to cancer, the American Cancer Society was kind of the first one I thought of when I thought about the event. So it was reaching out to them and saying, "Hey, I have this idea. I want to do this, and I want to do the partner with you, and then we'll be able to raise money for the American Cancer Society. Will you work with me?" And they're like, "Funny, because I think we have someone else who might be interested." So it kind of Brian and I got to meet and link up, and it's been amazing. And the journey over the last year, getting to work closely with everyone and meet everyone from ACS, has been really remarkable.
And we're going to try to share that as much as we can. What's the two of you, I'm sure when you reach out to friends and family, you say, "Hey, I'm doing this thing. It's not just a marathon." We see a lot of, and I'm not just saying just a marathon because it's a big feat. We see a lot of people raising money for marathons. When you reach out to people and you tell them, "I'm doing 7 marathons in 7 days on 7 continents," what's the reaction? I'm sure people have been donating and trying to help the cause out. What's the initial reaction to that?
Is that healthy? And then they find out the cause, and new people find out what the cause is, and they get much more excited at first instead of the initial shock of like, why?
Right.
But I think when people see how much things have affected your life, it resonates with people deeper, because every single person almost you talk to will be like, "Oh, my aunt had cancer," or "My friend had cancer," or "I have 2 friends that are battling it right now. Ironically, they found it at the same time," or all those things that are constantly happening. It resonates with so many people. And when you're doing it just because of just doing a race, that's fine, because it's noble too. If you're running for a cause just because you want to run a race, awesome. And when you're doing something on top of it that has impacted you, and you're doing it to spread the word even more so, I think it resonates with people more, and they feel that sincerity, and it just changes the whole dynamic of a conversation and people's willingness to either help or spread the word for you or anything like that. And if I could add too, so we have a Pledge It site, which is great, and that's for people that can start their own.
I have that too. It's pledgeit.org/ACS runs the world.
Yes.
We'll add that to the comment section. Sorry, go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, no, please. So we have that, so you can sign up and you can pledge to run as many miles as you want with a certain amount of money. But then we also have the direct link with American Cancer Society if you want to just give and you don't feel like you want to run any miles. So we can put both of those into the comment section.
So explain that to me. What happens with the running? How does the running work? So if you want to run a certain number of miles?
Yeah, so if you do Pledge It, you can set up your own link and say, okay, I'm going to pledge to run 15 miles and I'll donate this much. And you can share that too. So it's kind of like when people do, there's like the virtual races and things like that, or I'm going to sponsor you to run 5 cents per mile or $10 per mile or whatever, but you can pledge to run miles yourself if you want and donate money. So people can kind of run along with us. And then we also have the link that is direct to American Cancer Society for the donation. If you go like, dude, I just want to give and have an amazing time. Do that. So we have multiple. I think the Pledge It idea is really cool.
Very
though, because
cool.
not only are you promoting spreading the word with American Cancer Society, it also gets people up and moving themselves. If they're not already active, if they already are, they go, cool. I used to say, come on, guys, because I'm in the wine business. I'm like, don't have that one glass of wine afterward, or act like you're going to have that second glass and just donate that same amount of money, and it makes it easy. So you get to do the same thing, but just so here, donate 1 glass of wine and donate like 5 miles, and it's like carbon offset. Good to go.
How much wine are you going to be drinking in those 7 days?
Maybe on the last day, yes, when we're done, but
I want like champagne, like flowing and spraying champagne everywhere.
Yeah, it's going to be the NASCAR champagne method afterwards.
Yeah, in Miami.
Yeah.
Right at the end.
Yes.
You guys, I mean, I think, Brian, you were touching on the mental aspect of how mentally challenging it is and how it's so much mind over matter at some point, even more mental than physical. I by no means have ran one marathon, let alone a bunch. I did a triathlon, the Alcatraz one, for charity. And I remember as things got tough, that thought process of not just everybody who had donated, but everybody who you were running for was a lot for me, just both in training and running, kind of what pushed me through. Ask you both the question, have you felt while you're training the feel of, everybody who you're A, touching, and B, who you've lost to cancer, who's battled and beat cancer, that you've personally known, is that mental motivation to keep going in training? And I'm guessing it will be there when you actually run the race itself.
Please.
It certainly helps me. I mean, I think when you during those, I mean, everybody has challenging moments, and you have time that with when you're racing and you're training and you're tired, you're fatigued, and you're just drained, and you're like, why am I doing this? And I think it's important for a while. There's a bigger picture. It's not about me. It's about everybody else. It's about helping to make people's lives better and help to make the world a better place and to help in the fight to beat cancer and just joining in. Everybody has more birthdays. Like, I think it's just think about that. I always wear a bib with my dad and my stepmom and my friend's name on it. And then even recently, one of the things I was talking to my coach about, I think for the miles, my donors, I want to dedicate a mile. So as I'm running, I want to think about the people that donated, who believe in me, who are there to support me, and I want to think about them, and I want to carry them with me and encourage, that their encouragement as I go along. So that certainly plays a big part in that.
Yeah.
John is asking me, Keri, again for you to read, because some people are going to be listening to this audio, not just looking at the video. Can you read out that link for us again?
So the Pledge It link is pledgeit.org/ACS runs the world. And I just put it in the comments a moment ago, so you can find it in the comments, or maybe look back on the comments as well.
Fantastic. And Keri, outside of, and Brian, I know you are a master sommelier, so you're in the wine business. Keri, what do you do outside of running, I presume, every single day? What's the day-to-day gig outside of running?
I actually own a yoga studio. It's called Empower Yoga. We are located over by the College of New Jersey. And prior to that, I was a school administrator and a special education teacher. Spent about 15 years in the education field. And I talk about, like, yoga had saved my life. About a decade ago, they found cancerous cells on my cervix that were removed. And I became, I had surgery. Unfortunately, it wasn't more serious with surgery. We were able to get rid of it. But as a result of that, I wasn't able to have kids. And I was very sad and depressed and unhappy. And, at one point, a friend of mine was like, come on, you got to go to yoga. and yoga really helped transform and change my life. So it became a huge part of my life within the last decade, and yoga had given me so much. And I just, with running, I thought about things that my body could do versus what it couldn't do, and you know, yoga helped teach me, about loving myself more and that I'm stronger than I think. So as a result of that, I trained to become a yoga teacher and decided that I wanted to open up a yoga studio. So I moved to Jersey to help take care of my dad and stepmom who had terminal cancer. One of the things I did too was open up this space and create a space for people to go and to help others. So that's what I do. I love it. It's been 3 years. It's been incredible. We have an amazing community. I have amazing people that work with me, and I couldn't be more blessed because, especially when I'm going on this long journey, I feel comfortable that everything is well taken care of at Empower Yoga. So that's pretty awesome.
Well, congratulations and kudos to you, because being an entrepreneur and then having to take all that time to run a successful business and also dedicates as much time as you guys are dedicating to train for something like this really is incredible. It's not easy to do if you were retired and had all the time in the world, but both of you work very busy schedules and then train on the side to do this. That's incredible.
Yeah.
Keri, have you felt that the yoga has been really a good injury saving exercise for you? Because I know for a lot of people who run long distances or even do triathlons and are doing 3 sports, and I know both of you have done triathlons, injury prevention is such a big key to it. Do you incorporate yoga into this training for the marathon?
I mean, yoga has so many benefits aside from, you have the physical benefits, you also have mental benefits. It works a lot with health and recovery. I mean, we work with stability, mobility, flexibility, strength, and the breath is really important because we talk about running and breathing. So that breath work really comes into play. A lot of people, I do a lot of things, and I prior to when I started my kind of fitness journey, I was a CrossFit coach. I started doing yoga, running. I didn't know how to swim until years ago when I started triathlon. So it was a way of forcing myself. So yoga has been the one consistent for the last decade. And people are saying, how can you do all these things, these crazy things? And for me, it's yoga. It just has been there and something that I think has really truly helped and allowed me to do some of the cool things, cool stuff.
I got Brian's chomping at the bits here. I think he had the same experience.
No, Chris. Sorry.
Oh,
No, my question to Keri is, are you going to be leading a yoga class on the flight in between the marathons?
Great question.
I plan on doing yoga. I certainly plan on doing legs up the wall to just try to get the blood circulating in a different direction. One of the things I worry about is I get very puffy on planes. You're retaining water, and one thing that can help with that is legs up the wall and the blood flow. So I'm not opposed to doing a couple yoga stretches with people or having people join me. We can figure out a way to get our legs up and overhead. I definitely will plan on incorporating that into our travels and week.
Brian, are you a yoga guy?
I do enjoy doing yoga here and there. I have not ever really become deep into it. I enjoy it when I do it. I actually know that her studio is phenomenal. I was just there. Is that about a month ago? I don't know. The past handful of months have all merged together, and had an amazing night there. And the teachers that she has are incredible. But my meditation is more like when I'm running, and I'll do stretching here on my own on a mat, but it's more just traditional stretching. And then for me to find my breath and relax, I utilize swimming because it's just that feeling of floating is just so wonderful. And like Keri, a year and a half ago, I couldn't do the crawl. I could not do freestyle swimming. I did my first half Ironman with a backstroke, and then
whoa, that's crazy.
And then 6 months later, I learned how to get better. And then Keri and I, ironically, we were signed up for the same half Ironman. I swam that one. I was like, yay, I know how to swim. But that really, the water is...
He beat me on the swim, but I caught up to him on the...
he crushed me on the bike. But for me, the water and floating and just disappearing in there has just become just so quiet because you're just in yourself, and it's great. And I give you kudos also for doing the Escape from Alcatraz. I did that in June, and that was the mental aspect of just jumping into the San Francisco Bay.
I did it when you did it. I did it in June too.
Oh yeah, that was an insanely strong current. So
I was terrified. I'm not a good swimmer and I'm not a triathlete. I trained in the Lifetime Fitness pool here in Chicago, and I got into the bay the day before, and I don't know if it was good or bad that I did that because it built a little confidence in me, but I also realized I'm not that great of an open water swimmer because I just was bad at sighting. So I swam a really silly route, and that day was brutally hot, and I had a 12-year-old mountain bike, and I was a mess. I finished, but I was a very slow finisher.
actually, I would have preferred to have a mountain bike on those hills because they picked 18 miles of. Anyway,
Yeah. Yeah, it was tough.
This is on one of my bucket lists, so one day, gentlemen, I'll be there.
I'll cheer you on. I think I retired myself from doing the Alcatraz triathlon. That was a one and done. I'm hanging the gloves up for that one.
Oh, never say never.
Yeah.
I mean, Chris here has been trying to get me since the last couple of months to consider doing the Chicago Marathon. I just had shoulder surgery, so I can't really start running for about 2 more months now. But you said 16 weeks is the kind of training window?
For the
You can
marathon,
do it.
yeah.
Yeah, for
So Chicago
marathon.
Marathon
Well,
training always starts early June, pretty much the weekend after Memorial Day weekend.
So weekend after Memorial Day weekend, people start to
Plenty
train
of
for it.
time.
Yeah,
No
right.
excuses.
And I got four peer pressure
Yeah, I was
folks
going to say
here
this
today.
is the wrong group to talk you out of it.
Well, actually, John, do you want me to keep them on and then now bring on in-studio guests as well? So I'm going to leave you guys on. Feel free to chime in and ask any questions of the in-studio guests. They might be asking you guys questions, but I wanted to bring Chris and Kyra back in because the two of you have been watching them fundraise, train, become connected to them in a more intimate way. Tell me about how, first, the two of them are impacting the American Cancer Society and just kind of the motivation that you've taken from watching the two of them. I'm motivated. I've been talking to you guys for an hour now, and I'm crazy motivated by just having the opportunity to ask you guys questions. And I'll start with you, Kyra. How have you been motivated by getting to know these two and being a part of this?
Yeah, well, I've known Brian for about 2-3 years now, ever since I first started ACS, and I mean, he's been super motivational since the moment I met him. It started honestly when he was like, "I'm going to run all 6 world major marathons in 1 year," and that in itself is a feat. So that was I already knew this guy was crazy in a good way, and then bringing Keri into the mix, it kind of just felt completely like puzzle pieces were coming together. We all gathered together for Chicago Marathon, and by the end of that weekend, I might cry right now. I was like in tears because I didn't want them to leave. You know, it'd been so many phone calls and emails and getting to know one another because we're all part of this journey together, and they're, as people, are just so inspirational, so motivational, and you know, really touching so many lives in different ways. Whether that's inspiring someone who is like, you know what, I'm going to sign up for my first 5K. I'm just going to do a 5K because if these two could run 7 marathons in 7 days on 7 continents, I can get out and do a 5K.
Sure, of course.
Or if someone has been like, you know, wow, they're doing this amazing feat in honor of American Cancer Society for their dad, for their mom, you know, it really makes me want to do something more. And so let me go support the American Cancer Society. Let me support them by donating, or let me sign up for my first marathon with ACS or something like that. So it's just been a great experience. It's been a journey that I didn't know what to expect, and I have loved every second of it.
That's great to hear. And
Yeah.
Chris, you were very motivational yourself when you were in a few months ago, and I'm glad you came back on. And John and I hold the American Cancer Society in very high regard, and we've both had people who've obviously had cancer, both survived and lost the battle of cancer. And you do so much for the society, and you've been a part of so many of the endurance races. How is this one a little bit different, seeing that it's on an incredible scale?
Yeah.
So it's very different from the races that we have formal partnerships with. So the American Cancer Society Determination Team is an opportunity for people who want to run any race, be it a 5K or an ultra marathon or the World Marathon Challenge, you can do so by supporting the American Cancer Society. But this idea really started, I know Brian and Keri both had different paths in terms of connecting with ACS with their idea of wanting to do this. And it took a lot of moving pieces. It took a lot of patience as we were trying to connect with Richard Donovan, the race director for the World Marathon Challenge, who when we first originally reached out, it seems like everybody was having shoulder surgery at the time, but I think Richard Donovan had recently had surgery, and so he wasn't, looking at the emails at the time. But we had to really build it from scratch and to figure out a way where, Brian and Keri were both super passionate about each committing to raising $150,000 each for the American Cancer Society to do this opportunity. And this is not, it's not easy to run a marathon, certainly not easy to run 7 marathons in 7 days, but the dedication, the passion, and the strategic thinking that it takes to raise $150,000 each is truly incredible. And I know that both Brian and Keri are relying heavily on their own personal connections. Kyra, do you want to kind of talk about some of the different events that they've been hosting in all the different ways? Because it's incredibly creative of how they're utilizing their own strengths to try to be as efficient as possible and have the biggest impact as possible with their fundraising.
Please tell us.
Yeah, so Brian, as a wine master sommelier, when we were first talking, he was like, I'm essentially going to sell myself. And I was like, oh, okay. What does that mean? He's like, I'm going to do wine classes and cooking classes. And so he's done a couple of those in the past couple months to raise funds. Keri undertook a really big event, literally 4 days after taking on the Chicago Marathon this year. She hosted her first golf tournament. I've not even worked a golf tournament, so that is amazing. She was able to do that, and she's got a 5K plan coming up as well. They've combined forces to do some dinners, and they're continually looking to spread out their network so that people can donate to them and open opportunities. I know that Brian's got something in the works with a choral group. I might need to get a little bit more distinction on that, Brian, if you're able to jump in. But I know he wants to do something like that.
It's with the most famous opera singers in the world, and I'm not I don't go to the opera all the time, but a handful of friends that are amazing opera singers. One in which I met. They started an opera company called Bear Opera because unless you were Pavarotti, and even them, they didn't have a job all the time in an opera. Most people are working just like actors at a certain time of the year. So they started an opera group in New York where they would show up at a workspace for an hour and do the most incredible songs that people go, oh my God, I love that. Drink a couple glasses of wine and leave. So she's like, we'd love to hold a gala for you because I had donated myself to one of their galas, so we'll hold a gala. And I'm like, awesome.
Very cool.
Any different kind of thing that people want to do, I think, is important. So anyway, Kyra, thank you.
Listen, John and I are gonna try to share the pages and the links as much as we can. This is an incredible cause, and we'll do whatever we can. And anybody listening, if you're listening to this and you're just tuning in, go back a little bit and you'll get the link itself. John and I, if you are watching this, John's actually been putting the link in the actual video feed itself. So you'll see it underneath underneath the video itself. And it's also in the comment section. So please click and donate. Any little bit's going to help. It's unbelievable what they're attempting to put their bodies through. So support them, support the American Cancer Society, and please donate.
Yeah, and then just to kind of go back, this is obviously a very unique experience with the World Marathon Challenge, and it's our first time working with them. We've been learning a lot on all the different logistics, the ins and outs of trying to figure out when are we going to see them cross the finish line in Miami, and learning recently that we're not really going to know until they actually start the marathon in Antarctica. That will help dictate when we kind of have an idea of when they might be finishing. But, we do work with amazing races all over the world. And if you're interested, if you've been inspired and you want to run with the Determination Team, go to cancer.org/determination. You can see a full listing of our events all over the world. We do have spot guaranteed entries for a lot of races that are lottery based or might sell out or have already sold out. We are one of the largest charity teams for the Chicago Marathon. We almost have 400 runners right now
that's huge.
for the Bank of America Chicago Marathon, and we still have spots available. And we also work with races such as the London Marathon, the Berlin Marathon, the New York City Marathon. It's going to be the 50th anniversary of the New York City Marathon, and their goal for that race between all the different charities this year is to raise more than $50 million. Typically, the New York
Wow.
City Marathon raises right around $40-ish million, but with it being the 50th anniversary, they've added some more charity entries, and they put the expectation out to the charities to say we really want to, drive up the impact and raise more than $50 million for all these wonderful causes. So we do provide lots of different support. When you sign up, it's not like we just give you a website and walk away. Kyra gets a chance to work with all of these volunteers all over the world, helping them come up with different fundraising ideas, different ways for them to sell themselves, I guess, in legal ways. So, but we then also provide them with wonderful training support. We have amazing training partners here in the city of Chicago, also in New York, so that you're not going to be running alone. We help you through the basics of understanding what it's going to take to run a marathon, and then we make sure that we help put on an incredible experience for you on race weekend to help celebrate everything that you've done, not only for yourself, accomplishing an amazing goal of running a marathon, but raising incredibly needed funds for the American Cancer Society. And one last plug, we've talked so much about the mission of the American Cancer Society, but if anybody is listening and is currently dealing either with cancer or has somebody in their life that has been touched by cancer, you might be wondering, what can I do when somebody tells me I have somebody that, that's just been diagnosed? I encourage you, don't ever forget that the American Cancer Society has services available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can always visit cancer.org and live chat with one of our specialists, or you can call 1-800-227-2345. Those services are available 24 hours a day, even on Christmas or Thanksgiving. You can always talk to somebody, whether it's questions about treatment, services that might be available, getting a ride to treatment, or learning about how to get more involved as a volunteer.
Well, you guys do incredible stuff at ACS, and again, we had John. It was unbelievable the last time you were on. You were very motivational, and
A lot of that was Meg.
well, both of you,
Yeah.
and your involvement in cancer support in general in the Chicagoland and I mean worldwide is unbelievable. If somebody wants to get involved with ACS outside of this, is there a way to be a volunteer? Is there a way to help out outside of donating time and money to the determination side of this?
yeah.
And if so, how?
Absolutely. So if you want to get involved, it's still going through the same process. You can always live chat with somebody on www.cancer.org. They'll get your information, figure out where you live and how you're looking to get involved as a volunteer. You can also call the 1-800-227-2345 and speak with somebody that way. My email address is christopher.bowles@cancer.org. So I know that John has my contact information, but it's CHRISTOPHER. .B as in boy, OWLES at cancer.org. Send me an email and we'll find the right way to get you involved with the society. We have a gentleman recently who signed up and is running the Chicago Marathon for us, and he wanted to get more involved because he had lost somebody in his family to cancer, and he found out about our Road to Recovery program, and he became a road driver, kind of becoming an Uber driver for cancer patients, and he's already given 30 people rides to treatment in just a couple of months.
Oh, that's wonderful.
And it's not something that you think about is a big deal, but when somebody is trying to figure out how they're going to get to and from treatment if they don't have a ride, and if you think about all the traffic and they have to get to and from the hospital,
No parking, worry about it.
it's something that is super easy for him. He said it's so convenient. He can just sign up and see where somebody needs a ride. Say, yeah, I'm free at that time. I'll pick him up and take him right to the hospital, or pick him up from the hospital and take him home. And it's a super easy way, very flexible, just one of many different ways you can get involved as a volunteer. But we typically like to get to know our volunteers and figure out what their what their skill set is, how they're looking to have an impact, what sort of connections do they have that they feel might be able to make the most meaningful impact, not always monetarily, but for somebody like Brian who has a connection in the wine industry, and we have all these fancy galas, seeing if there's an opportunity to do more there. It's a lot of people don't fully realize the impact that they can have on cancer patients or the American Cancer Society and the work that we're doing.
Well, you're an incredible guy, and you're an incredibly humble guy because you also are a marathon runner who's running 3 marathons this year. You've been very humble and not even mentioned it yet, but I'm going to go ahead and mention it. Which 3 are you doing this year?
So I'm running the Tokyo Marathon, the Chicago Marathon, and New York City Marathon. And I've been fundraising for the American Cancer Society since 2012. And if I hit my goal of about raising roughly $10,000 this year, I will surpass $100,000 raised since I started in 2012. So
Congratulations.
yeah, so it's hopefully a big year, cross off some of these different races, and be able to have lots of fun and raise some meaningful funds for the American Cancer Society.
I'd also like to add that Chris is very humble in the sense that with the 3 marathons, he will finish up his 6th star this year. So he will have run all 6 World Major Marathons, strategically doing so, ending in Chicago, his hometown. So it's going to be a really big party. It's going to be a big party in Chicago.
So your next step is to do 7 marathons on 7 continents in 7 days.
No, it's
I
not.
think you guys are going to recruit him soon, and he's going to be doing the same thing soon.
I want to go to Antarctica just to hang out in Antarctica. I don't want to go there for
To
7 hours and be able to run. Like I want to be able to say, no, I want to stay here for a while.
According to their tourism website, it's whale watching season, so there's some stuff to see right now. That's all I gathered, that it's kind of summer there, and it's whale watching season. So you guys, the crazy thing is, and I'm going to go back to Keri and Brian, you guys don't get a lot of time to actually sightsee anything in these really cool places you're going to, because I looked at the list and I'm like, wow, that is like it's quite the bucket list of places to go to, but you're going to have to run, recover, get on a plane and fly away. Any plans of going back to any of those spots after you guys are done to hopefully actually vacation?
I don't know.
So hesitant.
I mean, and I don't know about. I mean, Antarctica. I'm not sure what I do. We're going to be circling the same runway 5 times, so that's not going to be. We're going to see the mountains and then see the snow, then see the mountains, then the snow. Well, snow the entire time. But the other places, I don't. I have no clue. I've never been to Dubai. I've never been to Fortaleza, Brazil, and I've never been to Perth, Australia, but who knows? But we're not going to see much of it.
Yeah. Keri, how about you? Any of those locations were on your bucket list and now you're going there and not really getting to view them?
I mean, I wish we had a little bit more time to spend there, but I'm hoping to explore some of, the food in the area at a minimum, which I'm excited about eating. But I hope to eventually go back to Australia. I think Australia is a place that I want to visit for a little bit longer. And my heart goes out to all the people and the animals and the lives lost over there. So I think as Australia starts to rebuild their economy, I think tourism is one way to help. And I think it'd be important to kind of go back and give back and help, the people of Australia. So I envision maybe going back to there one day.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's incredible. It's incredibly sad what's going on there. And it's crazy to watch on what a large scale the fires have kind of spread and how difficult it's been to get it under control. So my heart goes out to them, and B, I'm very hopeful for you guys specifically that it doesn't end up becoming an impeding factor for the race, because I know winds shift quite a bit. So hopefully the race directors have it all sorted out for you guys and it doesn't affect you. Are you both going to run New York as well with our good buddy Chris?
I have run New York twice. I probably will not run it again, but I would be happy to run Chicago with him because I love Chicago, and I would love an excuse just to go out and visit Kyra again and visit the rest of the ACS Chris and the ACS crew over there. So it was so amazing last year. I hope to do it again.
I got to give a shout out to one of our colleagues, Ramon, because Ramon talked me into doing the New York City Marathon, and I can't believe I've reached a place with Ramon where the path of least resistance is agreeing to do a marathon for him. Ramon is doing a race this year. He's doing Unleashed California, which is a 300-mile trail race out in California. It's over about 5 or 6 days. I don't know.
Holy smokes.
Yes. So when he's the one that taught me into doing the ultras last year, and so when he reached out and he said, "What do you have on your race calendar?" And I said, "I'm doing Tokyo and Chicago." And he said, "Why don't you do this ultra with me?" And I said, "No." And he said, "Why don't you do this one with me?" And I said, "No." And he said, "Well, you got to come out for the New York City Marathon. It's the 50th anniversary." I said, "Done. I'll do that one." And I said, "You can't ask me to do anything else then." And he's tried a couple of times, but I've said, "Nope." I said I would do the New York City Marathon. You got one out of me.
Well, he was talking you down there.
Yeah.
Yes,
he was
he
waiting
was
to see-
negotiating.
He was
A
negotiating.
little haggling
you
right
down.
there.
Yeah, and once I saw the marathon, I was like, okay, I'll do that one. I'll do that one.
That's a crazy one too. If he's doing it in even under a week, if he's doing 300 miles,
Yeah.
that's an unbelievable feat.
he's on
Yeah.
he's on a similar level with these folks,
Yeah.
but he somebody that can just walk into the mountains and disappear and come back and say, oh, I only ran 230 miles.
Right.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
He's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, he's
Well, I'm going to bring it back to kind of my original question to Keri and Brian. Do you guys have anything after this that's on the? And I don't know enough about the endurance racing. I'm learning a lot from Chris, from knowing Chris the last couple of months. But I don't know what the levels are and what these. I don't want to call them crazy. They're incredible. These incredible feats of athletics are. What's the next step? Do you guys have anything in mind after this? Is there like a plan to do? Is there something bigger?
Well, I'm not sure it gets much bigger than this. There are a couple things that I'm interested in. I'm trying not to think too far ahead because I really want to kind of enjoy this and enjoy the process and be living in the moment and not think about it being done already. Because when you put so much time, effort, energy, and training into one thing, I want to really live, through that. But that being said, I always kind of have a plan. I am running an Ironman in August and Mont Tremblant, and I think I want to continue to dive into the ultra world and maybe do Ultraman, which is double Ironman, or they have the one race that it's 5 Ironman on 5 Hawaiian Islands in 5 days, maybe something like that. I mean, who knows, really?
There you go.
Right.
That's the doing a little bit bigger that I didn't know existed. Brian, how about you?
As far as something bigger, I don't. To Keri's point, I don't know if there is anything like bigger or more intense, but I'm always trying to set a goal, and part of my training for this was also just as much mental training. And we all have things that go on in life and stuff, so in this training it's physical but with also mental, and setting a goal. And so the next goal, I think, getting more into the ultra world, so to speak, but I'd also like it to be more in trails. But of course, knowing myself, I'm probably not going to do something that is going to be none of it is simple, but I mean easier. But things that excite me, like I lived in Hawaii for a handful of years, and there's arguably one of the hardest 100-milers that go on there, just north of Makiki. You hit these 1,600 feet peaks like 20 times over the course of 25 miles, and it's called the Hurt 100. And you do that loop 5 times, and it's 20 miles. So it's brutal, but it's also in one of the most beautiful places in the forest there and things like that. So doing a lot more trail races like that happen to be in the mountains. I live in New York now. I used to live in Sonoma County, so I miss that aspect. To be able to do something like that brings two of my biggest loves together and keeps big goals right in front of me, and gives not only a new challenge, but something different to strive for, because it's always not upping. This year I've actually learned it's not about one-upsmanship for myself. It's more about why is the goal there and what am I doing this for? Because doing 7 races in 7 days is literally going, why am I doing this? And is it for something? Is it somebody else? There's the meaning that we have behind it. But at the end of the day, it also has to be something that you're doing for yourself. And that's that. So finding something like that, I mean, if I could get in lottery-wise into like the Western States 100, that would be amazing. Or be one of the hundreds of amazing people that fail finishing the Barclays Marathon in Tennessee, because only 3 people have ever finished that. But I would like to just try it. You do this massive trail race with no GPS. You're allowed to bring a compass with you, but that is it. They give you the map, and literally they try to make this thing insanely stupid, but only 3 people have ever finished it since its inception. So, but just the fun of doing it. It's not failure. It's
Well, our past guest Meg,
Yeah.
that was
Yeah,
her.
she was trying that.
That
Yeah.
was what she just
Yeah,
did,
she had
right?
just completed that about 2 weeks prior when she and I came on here.
Yeah, Barkley.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. She had just competed in that a few weeks prior to when you
Yep.
guys came on. Well, you guys are incredible. I just imagined. I don't know if you've ever read the World's Fittest book. It's a guy, Ross Edgley, who swims around Great Britain. It's like the longest swim ever.
Wow.
And he's a British guy. And I just imagined you backstroking it, one-upping him and saying, you know what, I'm just going to backstroke around Great Britain. Have you guys ever read the book or heard of the guy? He's an incredible guy to listen to. And his stories of when he was doing some of his swims and he would have to swim through basically pools of jellyfish. But because he was timed and he had to swim a certain distance every day, he would have to keep swimming. And I think he was on Joe Rogan's podcast where he said his goggles from getting stung had basically his face had swelled up to the point that he had to peel his goggles off and rip face skin off. And if you see the photos of him after he had done the swim, the guy just looks gnarly. And it's incredible what guys like him and you guys put yourselves through. And I mean, I'm sitting here with a torn shoulder crying about having to go to PT, and you guys are doing some incredible stuff. So you've motivated me, and I'm hoping everybody who's listening is incredibly motivated by the two of you.
Awesome.
So I think
Thank
backstroking
you.
the UK would maybe be a good one for you. Or a fun
Put that
one.
on the to-do.
I always ask this of everybody who comes on the show, and I want to ask it of the two of you. You've given us a lot of motivation, and it doesn't have to be, we typically ask it in a business sense, in a fitness sense, and this is a perfect time for it. At the beginning of the year, everybody's motivated, and I always hate when people poo-poo someone's motivation at the beginning of the year, and you see a lot of posts about, oh, people are only motivated for a month, and then they fall off, and the gym is packed, and people like trashing that. I'm of the opposite mindset. If you're motivated about something good for you, keep the motivation. But the reality is a lot of people's motivation swings really high and then it drops off. Both of you, please answer this question. Any advice to somebody who's starting to get into fitness, who is you guys in 2012 or 14 when you may not have been as accomplished as you are right now? Any pieces of advice for them just getting started on a path to fitness?
One thing, in the past handful of months, it's interesting, I stopped listening to music while I run. I've been listening to a lot of audiobooks, and I'll get to one where it sums it up really quickly, but my advice would be, number one, if you're going to use a New Year's resolution or something to start becoming fit, start becoming healthy, I mean, great, that's amazing. Doing it at any time is amazing, but set an achievable goal. I think so many people will say, I'm motivated, I'm going to start doing this January 1, and they set this massive goal that it's like, I'm going to spend an hour a day at the gym. An hour at the gym is actually like a long time. Going for a run for an hour if you're not doing it for an hour. So setting an achievable goal that is realistic, that makes it become a habit. And one of the books that I listened to recently was a gentleman named David Goggins. I don't know if you've read his book, You Can't Hurt Me. And, you know, here's a Navy SEAL that also went through a lot of stuff and then did his 100-mile race and then Leadville and like the most difficult races. But his biggest thing, and it kind of summed up in many ways what I just said, is becoming motivated is one thing, to do one thing, but don't let motivation be the anchor that allows you to do what you do every day, because what happens when you wake up and you don't feel motivated to walk out and go for your run, walk out? You still have to do it. I still have to train for this thing. If not, I'm going to be severely injured and in pain. So it's how you make something a habit, and some days you're motivated, some days you're not, but it's how it becomes a habit. And I think it becomes a habit if you enjoy yourself by setting achievable goals and you recognize what you achieved each time you do it. I think that helps out a lot. So take small bites, you know. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. They should change that to something else, like a really large pie or something, but it goes back to that adage, you know, start that way, because if you bite off more than you can chew, you're going to spend more time like, oh my God, that was a rough day, so you don't go back for 3 days or 4 days. Do it so you enjoy it and you start feeling the benefits of what you do.
I love that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Keri, how about you?
I certainly agree with Brian, because motivation will only get you so far. A lot of it's about discipline and disciplining yourself. For me, I thrive on structure and consistency. So being very like type A, one of the things why I love marathon training so much is like I knew what I was going to do every day. And the personality I have is like I didn't have a choice not to do it. If it's like written down in my plan, I was going to do it no matter what. So I feel like sometimes, like what Brian said, breaking things up into manageable, easy parts. Being kind to yourself. You know, when you start something new, it's a challenge. It's hard. There are going to be times that you want to give up. I mean, a lot of people who are not good at something, Someone might be at my front door.
You can go grab it if you want.
Sorry.
You have to
We're
bring
not
them on the
good
podcast,
today,
so.
You automatically want to give up. I mean, I remember when I first started running, I was the last one in our running group. I was running a 15-minute mile, and I cried every time, and I wanted to give up. But, I stuck with it, and it's like I made a commitment to do something, and I was going to stick with it. So I think that, you're going to have lows, you're going to have times where it's hard, where you don't want to do it, but it's, about pushing kind of through those and working on the mindset and being kind and it's more than you did the day before. So every day, if you just do a little bit more, you can, your body is pretty amazing, and you can do some pretty awesome things. Our mind definitely gives up way before our body ever will. So I think it's just, working on that piece and believing in yourself and knowing that you truly can do anything that you set your mind to. That, anything's within your reach, really. If you want, if you want it bad enough, you'll find a way. If you don't, you'll find an excuse. So I think it's about just setting, goals and just working every day to attack those goals and be the best you that you can be.
You two are such a great example of all those pieces of advice, and I appreciate it. You have to grab the front door, grab it. Just bring whoever is on the front door on the podcast.
It might have been Amazon.
I imagine
Christmas
most of the time when my doorbell rings, it's Amazon letting me know there's a package. And I'm sure leading into this incredible athletic feat, you guys are ordering a lot of goodies off of Amazon.
Yeah. Every day, my husband's like, "What did you order now?" I'm like, don't worry about it.
And for our in-studio guests, too, I want to ask both of you as well, and I want to be mindful of your time. I honestly, and I'm going to say this, and I'm sure John will agree, when you guys are done with this, we'd love to have you back on again to just talk about how this experience was, because I'm blown away by it. I'm fascinated by it, and I would love to have you guys back on to talk about it as well. And in-studio guests, I want to be mindful of your time, too, because I could go on for hours and hours with the four of you. Any piece of advice for somebody, it can be in the fitness realm, it can be in the charitable realm. I know you wear a lot of hats, Chris, so one piece of advice.
Yeah, I look at it from two different things. From fitness perspective, a year ago, I went on a big nutrition kick, and I think what was very helpful that wasn't already covered was finding your support group, making sure you have a support group in place. And if that's just going to be from working out, find out people that you are going to be working out with regularly who can help hold you accountable and you can help hold them accountable. I also think it's important to echo what was mentioned about celebrating the accomplishments. It's when you set a big goal, it's not always going to be success every single day. And I remember personally from my efforts, to try to lose weight, I had some weeks where I would lose a lot and then I would level out, and then I would lose a lot and I would level out, or I might put on a pound or two, and I had to recognize that was all part of the process. But you have to celebrate the successes along the way to know that you're still on your road to the success that you built out. From a charity standpoint, I encourage everybody, find a cause that you're passionate about. I'm very passionate about the work that the American Cancer Society does. There's lots of other wonderful organizations out there. I've got two amazing dogs. Paws, Right Way Rescue are both close to me. My dad was diagnosed with Alzheimer's and passed away last year. The Alzheimer's Association is very close and meaningful to me. There are so many wonderful causes out there. Just find one that resonates with you and figure out how you can have the best possible impact. It's amazing when you can meet so many other people like Keri, like Brian, who inspire me to try to figure out what I'm going to do next, because this came about as, look, ACS, you were great. You helped me do all of these amazing races individually, but I want to do something more, and how can I do that? And so I encourage you just to find a cause that's worthwhile. Do your research on it to make sure you're familiar with how your impact is going to be felt within the organization, and make the most of your time and try to have a positive impact, make the world a better place.
I love that too. Kyra, you manage a lot of projects at the same time, and you are tasked with the very difficult job of, while a lot of people are training, helping them stay motivated to fundraise as well on the charitable side of things. Give us some advice, kind of piggybacking off of what Brian said in the charity world.
Yeah, so fundraising wise, I think that's what most people get scared of when they join our team or anything like that. The training doesn't really freak them out. The running doesn't really freak them out. It's really the fundraising. And the first thing I always tell everyone is share your story. Everyone has been affected by cancer in some way, shape, or form. And it's you telling people why this matters to you, why it makes a difference, why you're taking on a feat of running 26.2 miles, or if you're running 7 marathons in 7 days in 7 continents, why is motivating you to do this? And it really shows a lot of people that we're all connected a lot more than we think we are, and that you never really know the generosity of people until you start sharing that story. And I've heard so many stories of people say like, oh, I'm saying I'm running this marathon. I shared that I'm running because my mom was diagnosed with breast cancer, and someone that I hadn't spoken to for 5 years donated to me because they themselves had a mom who passed away from breast cancer, or they have an aunt who was affected at that moment. So it's something that binds us all together. And I think it's something that makes the world a better place, as Chris had mentioned. So first off the bat, just share your story, share why you're running, why it makes a difference to you. And, you'll see that continue on and have that ripple effect. And, as Chris said, kind of like live in the moment with it. You're supporting this charity, you're supporting any charity at that moment, because it's something meaningful to you, and it's something that you want to make a difference in. And so enjoy everything. Enjoy your accomplishments. Enjoy the lows, the highs. A lot of people, when they're done with their training and they get to marathon weekend, they're like, I can't believe I'm already here. I'm so excited. I'm so nervous. I'm all of those, jitters and everything. And it goes by a lot quicker than people think. And I think that's what happens when, I know we were speaking briefly beforehand, that a lot of people say, hey, I'm a one and done. I'm not going to do this anymore. This is it. And then like immediately after, those endorphins are running, their tears are shed, but they're happy tears. And they're like, I'm ready for the next thing. Yep.
Well, thank you again for everything you do.
Yeah.
And thank you for coming in. I always seem to forget this, and I don't want to butcher it today. John's shaking at me. I hit them all, John, the questions. I always ask John if he's got any more questions before I close out. I got one last fun one. Especially for Keri and Brian, any fun cheat meals, which are going to be that, hey, I'm in Miami, I'm done. Obviously, there's going to be some wine and champagne involved, but what's the, I've accomplished this incredible feat, I'm going to go have myself a great meal?
Funny answer. That's a great question. I actually, I would probably sweet potato fries. It sounds so stupid.
Fries?
Or anything Mexican too. Like I would love nachos or like anything. I mean, you're in Miami, so Mexican I guess would be a great choice. But I love sweet potato fries. I don't often eat a whole lot of anything fried, so something fried and delicious probably.
Brian, other than a wine dinner, what are you adding to the wine?
Well, I'm not going to go to a wine dinner. I will be staying at a friend's house who's going to ply me with copious amounts of wine, and they're all great cooks. But as far as going out somewhere, I mean, I could eat French fries 24/7, so that will happen. But there's also a great Cuban restaurant called Versailles there that it's spelled Versailles, but it's pronounced Versailles. And I will go and eat there because, I mean, well, I get everything covered. I got potatoes, I got pork, I got corn, I got rice, I got everything I could possibly want. And a lot. And seafood. Just a lot, probably.
I can't wait for you guys. I can't wait for you guys to be able to finish, have the feeling of that accomplishment, and be able to drink all that wine and food that you want. Chris, Kyra, anything? You guys, what's the cheat meal?
My celebration meal. It's not a cheat. It's a celebration meal. I was going back and forth. I think I've settled on Pequods.
Okay, Pequods. Pequods is around the corner from my office, so the next time you go, just shoot me a message. No, I'm the one in Lincoln Park.
Lincoln Park, okay, yeah. Because I started going to the one in high school in Morton Grove, and now, the one on Clybourne. Oh, my brothers both came in for the holidays, and it was the very first meal that they had, and they had to make sure that there was a night. My mom even knows now that whenever they come in town, okay, at least one night's going to be Pequods.
Well, when Keri and Brian come in, if you haven't taken them to the Pequods, it's incredible pizza here in Chicago. I know you guys are East Coast, so New York, Chicago pizza is a little bit different. This is it's deep. Do you get the deep dish there?
I usually just get the pan is sufficient for me. The pan pizza is sufficient for me.
He's going to take you to a good Chicago.
I lived in Chicago for many years, and Worked at a place in Lincoln Park that we would have Pequods deliver once a month at the end of service on a Saturday night.
Unbelievable.
And this was like the top chef in the world, and he wanted Pequods.
Yeah, he shared an amazing story, and I don't know if there's enough time for it.
Yeah, we
but
got time.
with-
We have
with
all the
Charlie
time. I'm being respectful of
with
your
Charlie
guys' time.
Trotter.
Wow. Okay.
Brian, I don't know if you want to talk about
Yeah.
your connection with Charlie Trotter.
Shoot.
So I was the wine director at Charlie Trotter's in Chicago for a bunch of
Incredible.
years. So that was like the '90s. So that makes me feel really old now. But so besides his intensity and what he was, I think I would also not be able to do these races if it weren't for him because of how he pushes for excellence, and that's really amazing. But also how he experienced food. And yes, at Charlie Trotter's, one of the favorite nights was when Pequods would be delivered or when the original potbelly would be delivered. Because
Yeah.
most
Wow.
people don't know that there weren't like a gajillion of them. There was just the one on Lincoln.
Right.
We'd pick up potbelly every other Saturday morning, and everybody would eat potbelly, and it was just,
What a cool story.
Okay,
Is that
I'm
the,
really
is that
starving
the,
now.
Is that the potbelly sandwich?
Yeah. Potbelly
Okay.
Sandwich.
Well,
Chris
Kyra
loves
knows.
their cookies.
Oh,
Chris
yeah,
loves
Kyra
their
knows.
cookies.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Oh, the oatmeal chocolate
Cookies
chip
on
and
the
that brownie
chocolate
cookie.
What about yours, Kyra?
I'm kind of in the same realm as Keri. I will go for French fries, but specifically they have to be Portillo's cheese fries.
So Portillo's fries. John knows this. Portillo's fries are my favorite fries.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I never
By
really
far.
do the cheese part. But Portillo's are my favorite.
So the fry itself is good, but when you add the cheese, it's a whole nother dimension. Oh God, so good.
I sometimes pick up Portillo's to bring it to the studio for John and I.
Yeah.
And by the time I get here, I've ate all of my fries and half of John's
Absolutely.
fries before they get here. So John has like half of a large fry left.
That's the driver's tax. That's
Yeah,
pickup
that's right.
tax. You eat it as you're on your way here, you know? So yeah.
Stop sticking up for him.
That's what it is, John. Well, thank you all for coming on. I want to be respectful of your time. Keri and Brian, I can't wish you enough luck. You're both not just incredible athletes, but you're incredibly motivational. And I couldn't even begin to imagine the feat when John let me know you guys are going to be on the show today. But just hearing how in the last decade you guys have both changed your lives in so many different ways for the better, and how running and these athletic endeavors have made an exponential change on your personal lives has really been motivational for me. And I hope for those of you watching and then later on listening to this as well, you got a bit of that motivation. If you're listening to it, I almost, and I've never said this before, but I urge you to watch this one. Come and watch it because it's been a fun one, and the two of you have motivated, inspired me quite a bit. So I'd love to have you guys back on again when you're done with the race. Best of luck to you. I hope it goes
Thank you
smooth
very
and
much.
fun for you guys. And Chris and Kyra, Chris, thank you again for coming on for a second time.
Thank you for having us.
Obviously
thank you.
connecting us to these two incredible people and Kyra as well. And thank you for everything the two of you do for not just the American Cancer Society, but society and charity work in general. So I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Maybe with enough urging, I will consider doing the Chicago Marathon. It wasn't even a thought in my head, but Chris has now twice been here and kind of poked me for it. So now the hamster wheel's
There
spinning.
you go.
Yeah.
We've got time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we got a little bit of time. The
We got
16
time.
weeks made me feel good because I'm still a few weeks out from being
All
able
you
to
have
do this.
to be is ready to run a 10K distance at the start of June. If you can run a 10K faster than a 15-minute per mile pace,
Well, I could do that today.
if you
Then-
can do that at the beginning of June, you can run the Chicago Marathon.
You make it sound so easy.
Well, that's my job.
Maggie just chimed in. She goes, "What an inspirational show!" It really, really was. John, I know we didn't really do our kind of shout outs at the beginning of the show. Do you want me to introduce what's going on with the space and stuff real quick before we sign off?
Well, I tell you what, we're real late right now, so why don't we maybe put that off till next week?
Okay, awesome. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you, obviously, to the guests for coming on. Like I said 10 times already, it was incredible. It was inspirational. I appreciate your time. Best of luck to the two of you. I'm going to follow along on social media. Hopefully, you guys give us some updates as the race goes on. So thanks again, and we'll see you guys next Wednesday at 3 o'clock.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
In 3, 2,